Well, let's celebrate. Taco. How good is it? Yes. Thank the gods. Finally, an epic nickname that is going to hang around. You just know in your bones it's going to hang around. He's been reduced to a taco. Ah, just savor the moment. After all the years we had to sit through with Crooked Hillary and Sleepy Joe, here he is. He can dish it out, but he can't wear it. He must hate it. He must absolutely be beside himself. And don't you love how it happened with that very brave young journalist? And he misheard originally. Oh, you mean I kick out? Me, macho me. And she clarified it. No, that'd be chickening out. And what's fabulous about it is, of course, every time this happens with trade tariffs and embargoes and whatever, it'll just be a shorthand. The world now has a shorthand. You should see the memes if you haven't. The international memes are rip snorting. They are fabulous. So let's just relish that for a moment. Now, in Australia here, we've just been slapped with increased tariffs of 50% on steel and aluminum, as you guys call it, which I think was a typo 40 years ago. It's actually aluminium, but anyway, aluminum, so you know what I'm talking about. 50% tariffs. Now, we've just had our election, as you know, and our re-elected Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, Albo. Now, I was thrilled with the colossal mandate he was given because it was an anti-Trump vote, it was an anti-conservative vote. But Albo's never thrilled me with respect and awe or even liking, really, because he is a wimp, he's a bit of a wet dishcloth. So we got slapped with the 50% tariffs. And Albo said, it's not the act of a friend. Oh, please spare me. You see what I mean? Now, Mark Carney, on the other hand, would have, and what Albo should have, said, this is very bad news for the American people because you will be paying 50% more on your imports. Turn it around. That's how you deal with the bully, is stand up to them and turn it around. No one can argue with that. And it might have penetrated the odd brain. But that's what Canada did really effectively over and over and over. These tariffs are bad for the American people, right? So he missed an opportunity. But never mind. At least he's not the mad Christian that we almost had, or the ex-cop, or we've had some bad conservatives in power. Okay, in other good news, before we double back to tariffs, George Kittle, gridiron player, has just donated $12.9 million, let's say 13, we'll round it up to $13 million of his sponsorship and other monies to create homes for the homeless. And I'm not sure what shape that'll take, but good on him because he's setting the tone. And that's so important. And long-term intrepid viewers will know that's one of the things I harp on. I want to see the wealthy start to use their money in charitable ways. So it sets a new standard of understanding you've got the privilege of having that much. You might have worked hard for it, but other people work hard and don't get these massive financial rewards. So it lifts the bar. So I love that. All right. Now, I've got two questions on the tariffs that are sort of related but different. The first one is about this Court of International Trade. And well, actually, that's the second one. these general court losses saying whatever it is that the Yeti administration or regime has said is an emergency actually doesn't meet being an emergency when you look at the criteria, whether that's fentanyl or being invaded over the border and these various things. Having a trade deficit is not a national emergency. In the sense it implies, emergency implies it's really current and has to be dealt with. This has been a long-term drift, and as we've talked about before, Bill Clinton managed to get it down, but Dems never get the credit for that. Anyway, so the first part is about these tariffs. Oh, my main point, sorry, I'm so excited about the taco, I nearly forgot. Why is it so important that the courts start arguing what is an emergency? Because we all know, we're grown-ups here, he will do everything in his power to stop the midterms, and he will do that by declaring some sort of emergency. So it's really important that what constitutes an emergency is defined legally and currently. So this will play out through the layers and the appeals and all the way up to the ever so disappointing Supreme Court. But let's see who have missed opportunities, speaking of, to pull him in and in fact gave him that obscene immunity ruling. Okay, so, all right, focus, Lena. All right, now, these rulings about what constitutes an emergency, let's have a look. Will they hold up further down the line? Because if he's deprived of that power, that takes away a massive amount of his power in every direction. It's really important. And if the same is also true if the subsequent courts don't hold it up, it gives him free rein. So it's actually really important. Emergency powers. Emergency powers. Let's have a look here. Might have to pull some extra cards on this. This is sort of laying the scene rather than giving us the answer to that question. So, what this represents with this Eight of Wands, incoming. So, in other words, the court dockets are going to be full of these cases. Absolutely chock-a-block. The courts themselves feel this card traditionally is about moving from choppy waters into smoother waters, but I think symbolically it's a bit different. They are beginning to realize they are on the hit list too in every way. You know, this disparaging of judges and absolute stuff. And Stephen Miller, who gets wheeled out on these occasions to belittle the court system and getting people used to the idea, who needs a court system? It only holds things up. Such a dangerous position. So they're beginning to act on this. All the swords in the boat, they understand they're taking their problems with them further up the chain. They do get that. They are worried they're going to be marginalized here with this card. Let me digress for a moment here. For fascism to take hold, it needs conventionally the three pillars. And those three pillars are the media, and let's face it, legacy media is in the bag. But fortunately, we have other options with the amazing independent podcasters that are out there. So Secular Talk and Jack Cacciarella, and there's too many to name, are doing a fabulous job. It needs control of the media, control of the courts, which is what we're talking about here, and it needs to crush academic dissent. Those are the three pillars of fascism. That's why the attack on Harvard. So all the pillars are being attacked. So it's will they hold? Right. So I think the courts with these two cards are beginning to go, you know what? This would be America out in the cold of being a democratic country if they don't stand up now and move in this direction. I think they'll get courage here to do it. And they must. They must. Please. They must. But outcome of this, the Fool card. So it's very worrying because the Fool card generally can be very sophisticated, but it can also be very basic. Otherwise, America is walking off a cliff with this, right? But who's holding the line is the Queen of Wands. This could be Amy Coney Barrett, so, or a senior judicial figure, and there are many of them now. So my vibe is that it's the women in high positions legally who are standing their ground stronger than perhaps the men are at this point. This is a Queen of Wands energy here. So let us pray. We will keep our eye on that. Now, the second part of all this legal stuff has been the International Trade Court that slammed the regime this week, slammed them. And of course, the Yeti came out spitting chips and pointing at Leonard Leo. Now, this guy is the most conservative of the conservatives. He's from one of those really right-wing Catholic positions. I mean, I'd imagine it'd be Opus Dei and so forth, Federalist Society. And he was the engineer of many of the most jaundice-making placements in courts. Now the Yeti's turned and naming Leonard Leo. Isn't it interesting? And I heard Katie Fang say, remember, Katie Fang was kicked off MSNBC, which was a scandal in itself. It's getting rid of any of its high quality critical journalists. And she's now let loose. And she's turning up on all sorts of podcasts, and she's a different woman. She was always scary smart and fabulous. Don't misunderstand me, always. But now she's freer. And she lets out a few cuss words there. So, pulling myself back from that digression, what this about? Oh, Katie Fang was saying she thinks the Yeti is biting the hand that feeds him by this Leonard Leo attack. So let's look at, will there be consequences for attacking the Federalist Society? Oops. Sorry, that was just bad shuffling. Okay, the Leonard Leo son. Leonard Leo. And we've now got Pope Leo. We've got all these lions around. What's going to be the result of this? Oh, Eight of Wands again. I'm going to pull some extras here. So there's Trump and the Federalist Society. The Federalist Society. How funny is this? Okay, now, just a second, I've got something weird on my screen. There we go. Now, This actually, in one fell swoop, is the death of that relationship. So, although they might still wheel and deal together for their own agendas, the Yeti and the Federalists, that nexus has been broken. And look, trampling the Yeti. Because I think they're not just unhappy with it, they can be a little bit vengeful too. King of Wands, they still have power, a lot of power. Right. So the Yeti usually gets the Emperor. This is a different energy, King of Wands. I think this is Leonard Leo. Things moving very quickly. You can bet he was on the phone. Queen of Pentacles, quite a sedate card in this, but it's about values as much as money. So um, Leonard Leo, being an arch conservative, is finally realizing he would have known it from day one, but he held his nose and backed this man, right? Now it's different. It's going back to basics, basic values. What, excuse me, these extra two cards, we have voice of the people and communist country. Now, I think this is part of the Federalist Society's delusion. They think they speak for America. They think they speak for the wider Western world, and they don't. And I was a bit shocked that George Conway is also a member of the Federalist Society, which is quite diverse, but not in Leonard Leo's lounge room, right? In his world, to his goal in life is to stop the US becoming a communist country because we couldn't have that. So I think that's his fear. He's old school. He's Cold War mentality. I don't know how old he is or isn't, but it's that Cold War mentality and seeing communists as godless people. Right. So Leonard Leo is on his own mission from God. Okay. And now he feels instead of the Yeti being an ally, he's an obstacle to saving America. Well, that's a revelation, Leonard. Okay. Probably not all that surprising, but I'm kind of liking it in the sense he's not going to go, oh, that's Trump, like the other evangelicals. You know, the man is a sinner, but he's been chosen by God in the bigger picture. No, it's a pitching of the egos. And I was just talking with Erica Robinson. We have a conversation once a month on her channel in the Company of Cards. That'll be up tomorrow if you want to follow that up. But we were talking about Pope Leo, and he's delivering an online mass on the 14th. Interesting date, on the 14th of June, the day of the parade. Um, and she was saying for most Americans, oh, two cards just leapt out of the pack, nowhere near me, onto the floor. Okay, all right. Um, I'll have a look at those in a moment. What was doing? Pope Leo. Will he do it in English? He would have a Chicago accent. He's also got a MAGA brother. He knows the mentality really well. And I don't think the date was a coincidence. Right, so it'll be very interesting. Oh my God. All right, so let's look at the two cards. Oh dear, we're talking about still, I was talking about Leonard Leo. Bound by allegiance and covert corruption. Now, his allegiance is to the Federalist Society, not the Yeti, because presidents come and go. And covert corruption. I wonder if I'm not overreading this, right? I don't know Leonard Leo's actual persona, but if he's seriously upset, so upset that he's angry, he could take it upon himself to bring the Yeti down and he would know a lot of the covert corruption. We could see some leaks. Just saying. Just saying. Speaking of leaks, I'm not reading on Elon, but one couldn't help but be pleased to say these leaks from a friend are out. And he talks, because he doesn't think he's being recorded and will never be heard, he's talking very frankly about his own inadequacies and his covert, speaking of covert and not so covert, drug use, including he's been taking this, and I think the leaks are about a year old or 2 years old even, but he was taking so much ketamine, he said it's affecting his bladder. Ooh, I don't want to spoil your day, but just to know it's impacting his body for sure, for sure, for sure. Okay, now where are we? Mike Lee of Utah is leading the charge to limit presidential powers. Okay. Good luck, Mike Lee. Now, unfortunately, you'd have to say it's still that bit premature because, like I was saying earlier about the courts and Congress is supposed to put through any tariffs. At this point, Congress is a rubber stamp. He was so confident in them being a rubber stamp, he forgot to even ask Congress. So now he could come back to Congress who would say, oh, okay, maybe, which is a worry. Okay. But on top of that, Congress is going to shift. So please God, midterms shift. So it's too early to impeach. It's too early to expect any decent votes out of Congress, but at least Mike Lee is standing up on that side of the aisle about limiting presidential powers. So let's have a look. Look at any moment. Have a look. They're so gutless, it's hard to believe they do anything. I only do 3 cards and then 2 of these. Page of Pentacles is, oh, it's a bit wimpy. Well, that sort of sums it up, really, doesn't it? Now, this is Congress still afraid of the leader, holding on. They're not going to break ranks now over this or anything else. I think he's going to make a very good case, though, with this King of Swords, and it's going to make them a bit uncomfortable. When I say they, I only mean those in the middle. You can forget the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the out and out nut cases. We're talking what's left of Republicans in Congress. His case is going to be quite strong. And the message is pages of messages. Remember, I was just talking about this representing closely held values. Closely held values. So he's making them uncomfortable, and not many things do. So that's important. The extra cards are good intentions. I think he's got good intentions. What is he up against? The selfish agenda, right? So good luck, Mike Lee, but it's not going to go anywhere now, but you have to pave the way. Just as there was a lot of buttering up had to go on to the American public via The Apprentice and everything else. So the early MAGAs thought they were voting for the guy on The Apprentice, whose 6 bankruptcies were swept under the carpet. and the show that had to be scripted and re-scripted because he couldn't stay on point for 3 minutes. So there was a lot of buttering up in all sorts of ways. The media not following Bernie Sanders first time round, right? Um, not giving Kamala airplay when she was running to the same extent that they gave to the taco. So all this buttering up happens, but it can also happen the other way. So people might have to sit through an uncomfortable Mike Lee speech. They're not going to vote and support him. They haven't got the moral courage to actually stand up. However, by making them uncomfortable, paving the way, can you imagine? So after the midterms, we could see rules like this, we could see a genuine impeachment. All sorts of things could happen, but we are a million miles from there yet. Okay. So, um, I just want to have a quick look here. Two more things. China and India, both furious and upset, for the same and different reasons. Indian students have been targeted too. It's more press has been given to the Chinese students being, what was Marco Rubio's phrase, aggressively revoked. Their visas would be aggressive. Disgusting. Okay. Let's have a look here. Uh, India's done some hilarious taco stuff. Now, they're upset about the tariffs, but they're also upset that Trump claimed the ceasefire. No, he didn't. It was bilateral and it won't last, but that's not the point, colonial leftover that it is. But let's have a look together. China and India, if you add the economies of China and India together, and his aggressive, rude behavior is pushing people together, what are they talking about behind the scenes? That's what I'd like to know. Let's have a look. What are China and India saying to each other behind the scenes? They're still a bit confused. Oh, oh, wasn't expecting that. Wow. All right. Now, they have their differences and they are a bit confused here, which is not surprising because everyone on the planet is actually confused. As one economist said when he went into the shower, the tariffs were one thing, he came out of the shower and they'd doubled. This is underlying everything. It's not that they're wishy-washy confused, they're genuinely confused. Where is this going to go? And for how long? Because the Yeti is so unstable. So they're going, oh my God, this is craziness. I think they're each not feeling immensely powerful. China knows its own strengths, always plays the long game. However, this is indicating to me China's feeling a bit more vulnerable than it's letting on. Now, it's the same with India in the sense that Modi is a strong man, and whether you love him, hate him, fear him, no matter what, there's no doubt he's strong. But this is these cards are telling you behind the scenes, because if these men are virtually alone controlling giant numbers of people, has to be 2 billion or something together. You want to have your ducks in a row. That's how you succeed, whether you're in a one-party system like China or you're in a system like India where Modi has his thumb on the scales, so to speak, of elections. They don't like this. They don't feel good in this, right? Because it makes it harder to make an outright stand. And they're feeling ripped off, massively ripped off. So are they talking? Well, yes, they're seriously talking, right? When the pager one speaks, people listen. And together we are strong. So you better believe it. They're having talks, which is not their natural happy place. They're like, I'm strong, but they're not used to sharing that. You know, um, authoritarian leaders don't like sharing the limelight. So there we go. Interesting. I hadn't thought of it in those terms. I thought, oh, the BRICS are all talking to each other, of course, and their economies are changing, but I didn't think it would be as vulnerable as that. Okay, now for you guys. For you guys. Next. For you guys. What do you need to know to help you? So, what's going on? Well, it's funny when I ask this question each video, sometimes the cards are quite strident. You have to deal with all this stuff because you do, and so forth. But this is much softer. So I suggest this week a bit softer because you have to conserve your energy for for the summer and what's coming up. Okay, so keep your direction and your clarity for sure. But this is about your energy, your personal energy and the energy of the collective. Look at these two side by side. Oh, bless. Two of Cups and the Lovers. So the Two of Cups first, I love this card. This is about mutual respect. So this is about holding mutual respect for others. The opposite of what the GOP does under the Yeti. The Lovers. Now, yes, it can be romantic, but usually not. It's about merging together for your power, right? Your personal power is contingent on finding respectful allies in your struggle and in your world and joining together. I do love that. Okay, then, beloved intrepid viewers. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll be with you again before you know it. Ciao, ciao. Bye for now.